Hello, I am Dr. D.T. Sawant from Department of Geography, J.A.T Arts, Science and Commerce College for Women, Malegaon Dist-Nashik. Today's topic that is a classification of plants. Now the plant kingdom, which is of two types. Number one is a non-flowering plants, and second one that is a flowering plants. The most characteristic features of the plant kingdom is the diversity of plants. It may be pointed out that the first primitive plants were originated in the past geological history of the earth in the aquatic environment. Later on, plants adapted themselves to different climatic conditions, which means from warm, moist equatorial climate to cooled polar and arctic climates. To different habitats means from sea level to high mountains and from continental masses to different water bodies to different environmental conditions. Consequently, typical plants communities developed in the areas of various environmental conditions. There is wide range of variations in the size of plants, and these range from tiny plants of one cell like algae and sea diatoms to big flowering and seed bearing trees of tropical and temperate regions. Thus, plants all over the world vary so greatly in terms of size, structure, functions, and other properties that it is very difficult to classify them into certain categories. Moreover, not all the plants of terrestrial and aquatic ecosystems of the whole world could be known till now due to various reasons. Only about 4 lakh species of plants have become known to the botanists, and this known number represents only a small fraction of all the plants which are believed to have been distributed in the biosphere but could not be identified by botanists. It is believed that thousands of plant species could not be identified till now even in the tropical environment. It means that the classification of plants would always be open for inclusion of new classes and species as the knowledge of the identification and description of hitherto unidentified plants advances and more knowledge is made available about them. So here there are three types of growths in non-flowering plants. Those are number one is a mosses, number two those are ferns, and number third one that is a conifers, which cannot produce a flowers. So to characterize of conifers is that number one which is a tall evergreen trees, number two thin needle-like leaves, number third seeds produced in cones, and number fourth that is leaves, stem and root present. So to classify these flowering plants and non-flowering plants, on an average, plants are classified into following two broad categories based on morphological variations, and second one that is reproductive processes. So while discussing to the first that is a non-flowering plants or cryptogams, which is called as a cryptogams, those plants are classed as cryptogams which do not bear flowers and seeds. Thus, the reproductive processes of these plants are carried out through spores which are hidden in their bodies. In other words, the whole reproductive process of non-flowering plants is hidden in their bodies. The internal structure of their bodies is very simple. These plants are further divided into six divisions, which are those: number one is a bacteria, number two that is a algae, number third one that is a fungi, number fourth one that is a bryophyta, number fifth one that is a lichen, and number sixth that is a pteridophyta. One by one we will discuss that what bacteria is. It is important to note that some bacteria fall in the categories of animals, which means that microorganisms which are generally detritivores and are called as decomposers or microbes. While some bacteria are classed as plants, so plant bacteria are single, called plants, and are called schizophyta because these reproduce their offsprings by dividing their cells into two parts. The plant bacteria are further divided into two subtypes on the basis of food manufacturing and feeding habits. Number one, for example, which is a autotrophic bacteria, and second one that is a heterotrophic bacteria. What is autotrophous? Autotrophic bacteria produce their own food with the help of sunlight and nutrients through the process of photosynthesis. It is obvious that autotrophic bacteria derive their energy from sunlight and organic and inorganic sources. Heterotrophic bacteria do not prepare their own food, rather, they depend on their organisms for their food, but this helps in decaying and recycling of organic matter in the biosphere. They are non-vascular plants. Number 2. Algae. Algae are water-living microplants having very simple structural forms. Microalgae are single-cell plants, whereas relatively larger algae are formed of several cells. Some algae also live in the soils. These obtain their energy through photochemical mechanisms. Algae plants are grouped under the broader category of thallophyta. These are non-vascular plants. Fungi means it do not prepare their own themselves, and therefore these are not phototrophous. Rather, this depends on other organisms for their food and thus fall under the category of heterotrophs. Some fungi are parasites which depend on other living organisms for their food, while some fungi are saprophytes which derive their food from dead organic matter. Mushroom is a typical example of saprophyte as a fungi. Fungi are also grouped under the broader category of thallophyta. These are non-vascular plants. Bryophyta is the number 1. These are also non-vascular plants because there is no development of specialized internal structure which may allow the movement and transfer of materials from one part of the body of the plants to other part. These include several mosses and liveworts. Lichens, number 5. Lichens include those plants which carry both algae and fungi together as integral component of a single plant. Thus, such plants are termed as mixed plants or composite plants. It is interesting to note that one part of the lichen is chemotroph, means the algae which manufactures its own food through the process of chemosynthesis, while the other part of the same plant is heterotroph and it derives its food from the chemotroph algae. Next one, that is number last, sixth, Pteridophyta. These are vascular plants, but these reproduce their offsprings through spore, like all the plants falling in the category of cryptogams as referred to above. These category of plants include fern, horsetails, etc. So this is the example of mosses which is in front of you in the diagram, and the characteristics of these mosses, those are: number one is having no true roots. Second one, that is it have rhizoids for anchorage. Stems and leaves which are present. Plants usually present in tufts. Average height of this mosses is height 1.5 centimeter, and it also produces the spores, and it doesn't produce the seeds. As we have seen that there are two types of flowering plants. Number one is a monocotyledon, and second one, that is a dicotyledon. What is meant by monocotyledon and what is meant by dicotyledon? Monocotyledon means monocotyledon means only one, and dicotyledon means two. So here some of the flowering plants, those plants are included in the category of phanerogams or flowering plants, which reproduce their offsprings through seeds. It is obvious that such plants bear flowers, fruits, and seeds. Those are, for example, mango, guava, jackfruit, etc. These plants are also called spermatophyta because they carry sperms. This category includes vascular plants, which are further divided into two subcategories. For example, gymnosperms and angiosperms. What is gymnosperm? First of all, we will see. Number one, there is a gymnosperm. Includes those plants which carry their seeds in open form. In other words, the seeds of gymnosperms are not closed under a cover of seed. These vascular plants include various genera of temperate coniferous plants such as pine, spruce, juniper, etc. Number two, there is a angiosperm. It includes those vascular flowering plants which carry their seeds closed in protective cover or kept in body tissues. These are real flowering plants and are the most dominant group of vascular plants. These are also most evolved group of flowering plants. These plants are the latest as regards the evolution and development of plants on the globe. These are supposed to be evolved about 100 million years before present. The angiosperms are divided into two subtypes on the basis of seed structure and the number of leaves at the time of germination of seeds. For example, dicotyledon, and number two, that is a monocotyledon. Dicotyledon bears two leaves at the time of seed germination. All the leguminous and fruit bearing plants are included in the category of dicotyledon plants. For example, peas, grams, mangoes, etc. The monocotyledon plants carry such cells which have a single part, unlike dicotyledons, which carry seeds having two parts. Thus, only a single leaf appears at the time of seed germination. Most of the plants of cereal crops useful for human being are included in the category of monocotyledon plants. For example, those plants are wheat, corn, or maize, millet, etc. Thank you. Thank you very much.